Welcome to Stone Cold Stros. I'm Brandon Strange with Charlie Palillo and Josh Jordan. They are at Palillo and at Josh Jordan 975 on X. And in between our episodes here, you can read their blogs covering all things Houston sports over on sportsmap.com. On today's episode, no Pena, no problem. Outside a single McMeltdown, Houston holds serve versus two of the NL's best. We'll discuss what we learned from the home stand and what lies ahead on the road trip. We'll also dig into the latest trade rumblings, health updates, and possible call-ups. But before that, the three of us want to give a shout out to all of you who have heeded the call so far. We just hit 26,000 subs over the weekend. I just want to say the views we get, the amount of people that watch us during live premieres, the time you spend watching, the return viewers, the podcast listeners, the regulars in the comments that have wholesome baseball debates or call us stupid, one or the other. Thank you. It's all awesome. It's all appreciated. Please keep it up. Hit like now on this video if you can. Subscribe if you haven't yet. Join those other 26,000 people who've done it before you, and click the bell for notifications so you know when new content drops. And if you prefer to listen, as always, you can just search for us on your favorite podcast app, Stone Cold Stros. Charlie, Josh, welcome in. Man, I don't know how much more the baseball gods can handicap Houston, both figuratively and almost literally, before it catches up to them, but they just keep trucking along. Best record in June. I teased health updates in the open, but I think it was Blummer that commented that the fields at West Palm Beach can almost field their own Astros alternative team. One guy that thankfully won't be joining them is Pena, as the imaging was good, or so they say. Insert sarcastic shrug here. Pena left Friday's game after that hit by pitch, missed both Saturday and Sunday. Ultimately didn't matter. The team mustered just 5 runs against the Phillies. Didn't matter. Only scored more than 2 runs twice during the homestand. Didn't matter. It's hard to really describe how impressive this run that they've been on. It's kind of exemplified by the 2 teams they've just beat. And I asked you guys in prior episodes to describe how impressive this run is, given all the adversity and the legitimate reasons why they shouldn't be doing this. So I guess this is a 3-part question. You can answer any or all 3. So first, have you thought of any new ways of describing this feat that we're watching? Secondly, thoughts on Pena. Third, what's something or some things that stuck out to you guys specifically during this homestand?
Well, the Sunday win was a cap to a fabulous homestand. Broader than that, the capper to a magnificent month of June, right? With the Monday off day, we're into July, off the Astros having gone 19-7 for the month. Seattle with a game Monday night, but 12-14 in June through Sunday. That's a 7-game turnaround. The Astros lead going into Monday, 6.5 games over the Mariners. Jeremy Pena, we hope the Astros medical staff gets one right, and we won't be hearing about Jeremy Pena needing to play in a flak jacket the rest of the year because of multiple fractures in his ribs. And then lastly, old political axiom, it's the economy, stupid. It's the pitching, stupid, where the Astros are concerned. The month of June, they finish as a staff with a 2.93 earned run average. And I would suggest appropriate that Framber Valdez put the cherry on the sundae with another shutout outing backed by Abreu and Hader. The last 10 Framber appearances, ERA now in the mid-ones. Well, that's where Hunter Brown is for the season at 174. Astros have won Framber Valdez's last 10 starts. Best thing you can draw if we're playing Hold'em, right? Your first 2 cards, a pair of aces. Well, the Astros have them. In Hunter Brown and Framber Valdez starts to this point in the season, the Astros are 24-9. When anyone else besides Brown or Valdez starts, the Astros are 26-25, essentially a 500 team, which for your 3rd through 5th starters isn't bad, right? It's merely mediocre. But when your 1-2 are as dominant as Valdez and Brown have been, well, that has powered this Astros surge, because overall, it's not as if the offense was gangbusters in the month. Mix in the timely hits But Sunday, win number 19 for the season when they've scored fewer than 3 runs. Reminder, all of 2024, they won 12 such games, 12 and 55, scoring 3 or fewer last season, 19 and 27 this year, which is just crazy.
For me, Cam Smith, my Lord, he looks like the real deal. We're halfway through the season, and he's better than Altuve in pretty much every offensive category. It's just really cool what we're seeing. And we talked about him maybe having the clutch gene in our last video, and then he shows it again in this series, just trading blows with Kyle Tucker, and just awesome. Brian Abreu has also just been so good lately. Gave you 2 innings in the finale against the Cubs. He had another appearance a few days ago. He had 4 strikeouts, just striking everybody out. So pitching's been awesome. Cam Smith's taken that step. It's pretty exciting what we're seeing right now. It feels like they can maintain this. Just the pitching has been so good, and the injuries happen, and they just keep pushing through. You lose Pena, no problem. They keep winning. So it's really fun watching this club right now.
Yeah, pitching the turd in a punch ball obviously was McCullers' outing. And the Astros, when will they get to a point, or when will we get to a point, maybe not till the end of September, that you're saying, okay, that's the guy I want starting game 3 if you're in a decisive game 3, if you have to play that first round, or game 3 of a best of 5 if you're on to the division series. But to amplify on the offense, in June, the Astros really only had 3 guys have good months. And the top 2 are the guys who've been constants this season. Pena missing the last couple of games of the month, but an OPS for the month over 900. He hit over 300, on base over 400, slugged over 500. Paredes is just never going to be a high batting average guy. Hit about 250 for the month, but with the walks and with the slug, right, his OPS over 800 for the month, as it's over 800 for the season. I mean, Sunday, his first 3 plate appearances against Jameson Taillon, he saw 30 pitches. Taillon was good, but maybe he tired out, going over 100 pitches in the 5th inning when Altuve pops a fly into the Crawford boxes. But Paredes, just one professional at bat after another. He's just been so good. And then you throw in Cam Smith, the 3rd Astro with an OPS over 800 for the month. Now, he packed a lot of that into those 2 games in Oakland, where he went 7 for 9 with 2 home runs and 2 doubles, hit 250 for the rest of June apart from those, but they count. So on the downside, you factor in, hey, Christian Walker had his best month of the season with an OPS of 646. It continues to basically stink. Yainer Diaz, after a strong May, relapsed. Altuve continues basically to be mediocre overall, a low to mid-7s OPS. But the 2 guys coming to the plate the most for the Astros, Pena and Paredes, clearly their 2 best offensive players. That's how it's supposed to be. And if and when, out of the All-Star break, Jordan gets back, and if he's healthy, productive Jordan, you happily line up against anyone if the pitching maintains close, 1-2 anyway, at the front of the rotation and at the back of the bullpen to what the Astros have done so far this season.
Yeah, it marked me down for a cosign on that bullpen praise from Josh and for the Paredes praise from Charlie. Those battles that Paredes had Sunday with Taillon were incredible. It's one of those things where it shows up on the score sheet as him going hitless, but how valuable those were to wear down Taillon during that game was incredible. I mean, basically, Paredes had 30% of all the pitches that Taillon pitched during his appearance. It was incredible. And speaking of guys outside of Valdez and Brown, Charlie, you kind of hit this on the drive-by here, but I kind of want to circle back to what do you guys think about the McCullers blow-up from Saturday?
I just don't see where Lance McCullers is likely to become a consistent, dependable member of the rotation. I mean, the health stuff is always going to be hovering. Now, this most recent one was a freak thing where he rolls an ankle in the weight room somehow, but we know with the arm. But control has never been a forte of Lance McCullers, even a healthy, really good Lance McCullers. As we've noted before, his one healthy, good season as a big leaguer, he led the American League in walks issued. I mean, in the game Saturday, in the first inning, he had no idea where he was throwing the ball, right? 12 consecutive balls at one point. And then in the 3rd inning, he was basically just throwing them over the heart of the plate, and the Cubs were taking batting practice with 3 home runs. So, I mean, he has grit, he has toughness, he has want to. I just don't know that he has the ability to stay healthy and combine that with consistent good pitching anymore in his career. And the contrast between McCullers being here, there, and everywhere at times within outings, whereas Colt Gordon, he just comes in and throws strikes. Mix in Walker there, certainly to a lesser extent, Gusto. But when Arrighetti gets back, and then maybe when Javier gets back, Joe Espada and the Brain Trust, they're going to have the interesting decision, right? You don't just keep Lance McCullers in there because he threw all those curveballs and closed out 2017 against the Yankees, and he's had some quality postseason outings since then. Well, none of them in the last 2.5 years. It's going to have to be a meritocracy, not about what you did in the years past in terms of who stays in that Astros rotation.
Yeah, I mean, it was a terrible performance, but we knew he was going to be on a pitch count. It was his first game back from being injured. And is it just me, or I was just like, Espada, pull this guy out of the game. He's just giving up rockets all over the field and back-to-back home runs and doubles. And I get it, you want to protect your bullpen, but we knew Gusto was going to be ready to go. And by the time Espada pulled him out, I think they were already down. They'd scored like 7 runs, I think the Cubs had. The game was pretty much out of hand. So I'm like, this guy's working his way back. It's his first appearance, and he couldn't find the strike zone early in the game. I don't feel like Espada really gave him a real chance to win it by leaving him in there so long. Sometimes you got to protect players from themselves. And I just didn't understand why not go to Gusto a little bit sooner. And if you look on those Twitter streets, man, McCullers is getting it from Astros fans. I'm seeing, DFA him, cut him. I mean, come on, guys. They're not going to cut him. He's making a lot of money. He has had some good performances this year. So you just have to be a little bit patient. Overall, they won the series. It's not the end of the world. But Charlie's right. At the end of the year, is he a guy that you're going to be able to trust, assuming you make the postseason? Not so far, not the way it's looking, but we got some time. It's still June. We'll see how he bounces back from this start and what it looks like moving forward.
Yeah, in physics, there's this thing called relative position. And with Lance, it seems like his relative position is either one of 3 things, which is either having a good game, blowing up, or being hurt. And it's unfortunate. I mean, obviously, like you said, Josh, I mean, we're rooting for the guy. So we're hoping that he can turn it around. It's been rough. And we know what the history is with the dum-dums on Twitter lobbing threats at him. So don't do that, guys. Just a quick message. If you're interested in advertising your service or product on this show, you can contact our friends at the sales team at houston.sportsmap.com/advertise. The link is in our description. Houston gets the off day Monday as they travel to Colorado for 3 for their series, and then their series in LA over the weekend. The road has been a lot tougher for the Astros than it has been at home, which is a strange thing to say considering how anomalous some of the performance have been in the past. But maybe Daikin and the name change really did sage that ballpark for us. Besides health, what are you guys hoping for or looking to see from this team on the road?
Well, the Colorado Rockies may top last season's White Sox as the arguably worst team in the history of Major League Baseball. For years, the Rockies, they put up these bogus stats offensively at home, and everyone goes on the road and barely hits 200, if that. But this year, the Rockies are equal opportunity. Their roster's garbage. They are 8-32 at Coors Field. The record's actually worse at home this season than it is on the road. So obviously, even with the Astros still sub 500 on the road for the season at 18-20 heading to Denver, if they don't win the series, it's a disappointment. I mean, it's not an, oh my God, failure if they lose 2 out of 3, but it's a failure. This is baseball. In a short series, anybody can beat anybody else. The Astros, shame on them if they get caught looking ahead to the Dodgers over the weekend, right? For fans, okay, Ohtani's probably going to start one of those games and go 2-3 innings against the Astros. That'll be fun. And anytime Astros fans get to foam at the mouth at the prospect of facing the Dodgers, that's fun. But the Astros need to keep their eyes on the ball, right? The one soft touch in this 2-week stretch of games where they take 2 out of 3 from the Phillies, take 2 out of 3 from the Cubs. We'll see what they do in LA. Don't chump up against the Rockies. But sometimes you just get got in a short series of 3 games. The White Sox just took 2 out of 3 from the Giants over the weekend. So, I think the bar is simple. A 3-3 trip is okay. Better than that's a bang-up trip. A losing trip when half the games are against the Rockies would be disappointing. But starting Colorado series, either 6 or 7 games ahead of the Mariners, pending what they do with Kansas City, the Astros are in a strong spot. Then a week of home games against the now scuffling Guardians. And then, who knows, a chance to maybe, as a practical concern, put away the Texas Rangers, of them losing 2 out of 3 at home to the Mariners this weekend. And then, as we talked about, out of the All-Star break, 3 in Seattle. Remember, the Astros, not only do they have this comfortable lead at this point, but having taken 3 out of 4 from Seattle here, you go up there and win 2 out of 3, you're in a dominating position within the division. But even if things go off the rails a little bit, you'd be up very well in the tiebreaker chase there. So life is very, very good for the Astros right now, but they're not assured anything.
I'm going to have my eye on the catcher position. Victor Caratini's been really good this year, but the month of June, really poor for him, hitting 162. He's scuffling. And Yiner, we're starting to see some signs, starting to hit some home runs. For the month of June, he's hitting 256. So I've kind of given up on Christian Walker. So I'm hoping that Yiner can be a guy that maybe he gets it going, and then you have another guy in the middle of your lineup that you can count on to get some production there. So that'll be what I'm looking at there, and see if Caratini can bounce back, because he has played an important role on this team, being able to swing from both sides of the plate. And he comes up in clutch moments, and he's also a good pinch hitter. So it'd be nice if they can kind of get him going again. But yeah, I'll be watching Yiner. If he can kind of turn back into what he was last year, I think that'd be a huge boost for the offense.
On Walker, Josh, Joe Espada was kind of abreuing him. A cleanup guy, then down to 5th, down to 6th, as low as 7th. In the lineup this past week. He just shows no signs of sustaining anything. He's on pace for about 180 strikeouts. Yiner would seem to have much more upside. I'm exasperated with Yiner having just 10 walks drawn to this point in the season. He's still so woefully undisciplined at the plate. A guy who has such raw strength. The ball jumps off his bat. He has opposite field power as good as anyone on this ball club. But he just swings at so many bad pitches that even with a decent batting average, 250-ish, the on-base percentage blows because he never walks. And with the power, sub 400 slugging percentage, well, his OPS is in the mid-6s like Walker. These are the 2 guys who are supposed to be the 4 or 5 guys in the lineup. And to this point in the season, basically, they're stinky and stinkier.
Well, I'll take Stinky, because I don't have any faith that Stinkier is going to get it together anytime soon. We'll talk about that in a little bit. As we discussed, just as a quick drive-by on this, but as we discussed before we started, it was a rough weekend for former Astros relievers. Forrest Whitley, Hector Neris, Taylor Scott all DFA'd on the same day. And for the injured Astros, we got the report that Jordan and Chaz are heading to West Palm Beach to hit. So their rehab continues to move along. So we'll keep an eye on that. The one thing that we probably have to hit on here was the report from Bob Nightingale over the weekend that Houston is aggressively pursuing a lefty bat, supposedly interested in Orioles center fielder Cedric Mullins. Now, Charlie, I asked you about Jacob Melton back when he was active on the roster. But I asked you about Melton potentially being the lefty bat option for the Astros. And you said, well, part of being an option as a bat is making contact with bat on ball. Now Mullins, he was an all-star a few years ago, but the offense fell off, has been falling off steady since then. He's a free agent after this year. The numbers aren't good, so that probably means he's going to be cheap. But other than being cheap, why would that scratch the itch for Dana Brown?
It's a good question. Ryan O'Hearn is the Oriole left-handed hitter the Astros should be making a run at. Now, a bunch of teams can offer better prospect capital. O'Hearn would also be a rental. You mentioned Mullins has not been good this season. And frankly, the last 3 years, he's been no better than mediocre. He's actually been hideous this year against right-handed pitching. He's about a 180 against right-handed pitching. So to think, you could platoon him with Jake Myers or Cam Smith, not so much. I wonder if it's a specific niche role because, all due respect, Taylor Trammell's not a legit major league player. Jacob Melton seems to be an injury waiting to happen, but he's not going to be back till after the All-Star break at the very earliest anyway. But Mullins is another good glove. So as a late inning defensive replacement, if Altuve is out there, I don't know if we'll ever see Jordan out there again. But if you go with Mullins, Myers, Smith, that's three real quality outfielders. Mullins can run. So that one guy, maybe if you're thinking in September in the postseason, you need a pinch runner. Whether Zach DeCenzo in the mix, where's a roster spot for him? I think Chas McCormick could be the last guy in the NFL draft right now. Mr. Irrelevant. What's the spot for him as a right-handed hitter? But Mullins does make a little money. So unless the Astros are offloading, they're going to be checking the line very closely, because why would you nudge into the tax for Cedric Mullins? And Ryan O'Hearn mashes, can play a little corner outfield, some first base if you want to sit Christian Walker, unless you're going to summon your left-handed hitting first base option from Sugarland.
Yeah, I'm not sure, Brandon. Maybe they see something in Mullins that they think they can correct. That's the only thing that would make me wonder why they'd have interest in it. The 12 homers are nice, and he's got some steals this year too. But the 210 batting average, like, you got plenty of guys that can hit 210 on this team. So I'm not really sure what the thought process is there.
Well, speaking of guys that are hitting 210, when Jeremy Pena went down with the sore ribs, what no one said? Maybe Christian Walker will pick up the slack. Look, a couple episodes ago, I referenced John Singleton opting out of his minor league deal with the Mets. Something to the effect of, could I interest you in a lefty platoon option at first? Well, lo and behold, Big John finds himself slapping homers for the Space Cowboys once again. I've said it before on here. I'm a big fan of Big John, but the irony is not lost on me that one of Houston's more disappointing prospects keeps getting brought back to the organization post Yuli Gurriel. I guess my first question for you guys is a little bit more abstract, but has John Singleton in a way become the avatar for Houston's shortcoming at first base? And given what we're seeing from Christian Walker, and as deep as we're seeing it now into the season, when do you think we'll see Big John back wearing orange and blue for the big club?
Well, I'm into the avatar thing. If all else fails, give John Singleton a little bit of playing time. Reminder, he had a 773 OPS against right-handed pitching last season, which clearly the Astros thought was over his head, along with subpar defense, and that's why they moved on from him and threw 3 years, $60 million at Christian Walker. Singleton will take a walk, and there's the hope of the occasional long ball against a mistake from a right-handed pitching. I mean, he's sub-brutal against lefties. I mentioned Trammell really doesn't belong on the roster. How are they going to fill that spot if it's not a trade acquisition? I would see Singleton making more sense. You're not going to carry both Cooper Hummel and Taylor Trammell on your roster. And, well, Hummel's popped a couple of home runs. So I could see Singleton getting that niche opportunity. And I mentioned 773 OPS against righties a year ago. I mean, if he chops 100 points off that to 673, which is bad, still better than Christian Walker's numbers this season.
That's what's so tough is with Walker, it looks as bad as it actually is. I mean, he gets down 0-2. He strikes out so many times on just 3 pitches, just swinging at breaking balls in the dirt that he has no chance of hitting. It's just, it's awful to watch. And we did a video where we talked about that, over the last 30 days, Christian Walker's stats were actually kind of close to his career average. It was hitting around 250. And so we were thinking maybe is he coming out of it? But I just pulled his numbers for the month of June, hitting 221. It's just, whatever it is, it's not working. The Astros are just snake bit it bringing these older first basemen in. And I remember that with Abreu also. He'd get down in the count so fast and so many at bats where he'd only see 3 pitches. And we're seeing a lot of that from Christian Walker. So why not take a shot with Singleton and see what you have there? At least he does provide, he hits left-handed. And as Charlie mentioned, he'll see some pitches. He can get on base with some walks. So we're just getting to that desperate point with Christian Walker. And man, this is just the first year of his deal. Are they really going to end up cutting this guy in year 2, year 3? I thought you made a good point, Brandon. Like, Hader had a bad first year with the Astros. I think the only hope we can have is that it's just a down year for Christian Walker, and maybe he'll get off to a great start next year. But from right now, it's just bad. I don't see it getting better anytime soon.
Maybe the All-Star break, 4 days, get away with the family, whatever, a mental refresh. Wouldn't it be something if against right-handed pitching, they actually decide to give Singleton a little bit of run? In contrast to Abreu, Walker would be a viable defensive replacement. Yeah, a guy making $20 million as a late-inning defensive replacement in some games against right-handed starters. That was not in the game plan.
Yeah, Josh, you and I joked about it when we finished up the episode. I think it was last time. It's like Walker comes to the plate with 2 strikes on him. Like, he walks to the plate down 0-2 seemingly. And we talked about, we praised Paredes earlier in this episode because of how even if he can't scratch out a hit against a pitcher, he's going to put some pitches on him. And Walker doesn't either of those things. He can't put a hit together. He can't put a productive at-bat together one way or the other. It doesn't result in a hit. It rarely scores an RBI, and he rarely puts any more than 3 pitches on a pitcher. So it's tough, man. And I really want to see him succeed here. Charlie, my thought is kind of like you. Maybe, because it's not something you can point to physically and say, oh, well, the bat speed is gone or whatever the case, like it was with Abreu, where maybe there were some more glaring red flags in his physicality. So maybe it's just a mental thing where maybe the All-Star break, he can reset and come out firing like gangbusters. I hope. And then I guess outside of that, we have to hope for the Josh Hader scenario where he just, you're just not going to get much out of him this year, but next year with a full year of reset and just kind of comes in clean slate and hits the ground running. But my goodness, it's been a rough one. Final thoughts before we're out the door, guys.
I'll follow on Walker. I'm not attributing expectation to this, but just as teams can rip it up the first half of the season and fall like a lead balloon in the second half, or vice versa, scuffle and then just take off. Happens with individual players. Paul Goldschmidt was hitting 360 for a while with the Yankees. He's had a little bit of a tumble. Maybe he collapses in the second half, just as there are guys who are, Mookie Betts has an OPS of barely 700 right now for the Dodgers. Track record would suggest that he's going to go off for a while at some point and pump those numbers back up. The vicissitudes of a 162 game season.
On Walker, for me, it's hard to trust him in the middle of the order anymore. And I'm sure that's why Espada moved him down, because he doesn't make contact enough. Like him just getting a sac fly to the outfield feels like a miracle. You just can't trust that guy to have a productive at bat and just, get the guy home from third base. He's rarely done it this year. It's a big problem. If you don't put the ball in play, you don't give yourself a chance. And then finally, I think it's interesting that we saw reports that Dana Brown called Scott Boras about Jeremy Pena, saying, we're interested, because we saw those reports that the talks had stopped and Pena switched agents. So I find it interesting that Dana Brown put it out there that he called Scott Boras and said, hey, we want to extend Jeremy Pena. I think that's a good sign. If they do it, that's another question, but at least it shows that they're interested. And I think that's important. Pena's just been awesome.
Brief phone call, non-reenactment. Dana, good to hear from you. 10 years, $300 million as the floor. Dana, nice talking with you, Scott. We'll be in touch down the road. Click.
Probably.
Yeah, it's good reenactment or non-reenactment. I will say this. I kind of going back to the Walker thing, maybe putting a cherry on it. I texted Josh Friday when the lineup got released, and Espada had dropped Walker all the way down to 7. And I said, you know what? Good on Joe for having the guts to drop a guy down that low, because I don't think Dusty Baker would have had the gut. Like, Dusty Baker would have just rode with him in the 5 spot all season, the 4 or 5 spot all season. Now, granted, the flip side of that is it seems like every time you drop Walker in the lineup, it's in trade for an injury, and then he gets bumped right back up. So hopefully that's just a coincidence. One last reminder, if you're watching on YouTube, be sure to click like on the video. And if you listen to your podcast on apps like Apple or Spotify, please give us a 5-star rating while you're here. Our next scheduled episode drops on Thursday, so make sure you're subscribed to this channel because we also drop emergency episodes as big news breaks. For Charlie and Josh, I'm Brandon saying so long. Thanks for listening. Until next time, go Stros.